Okay, this woman needs no introduction or reintroduction for those that remember her from before. Miss Connie Dornan is back with us again. Why has Connie been the one that I choose? Because essentially, she thinks like I do, she acts like I do, she works like I do. There's a lot of late night emails between the two of us, but we come in a little bit of a different presentation. She curses way more than I do. Anyways, Connie, thank you so much for coming back.
Thank you very much for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be here and always good to see you.
It's my honor to have you here. You know, I think the absolute world of you.
And, you know, for those of you out there that are watching this, Amanda is my city twin. We're a little bit different. I'm prettier. Just joking.
Younger too, right?
I'm younger as well. Anyway, she is absolutely wonderful. And she's been taking care of my clients that have been doing the reverse commute back into the city.
Fantastic. Well, I'm going to jump in because we have some major topics to hit in on here.
Let's take it.
It's been a wild ride, right? We can not only last year, but the last few years have been a wild ride. We are looking eyes full face forward at 2024. Talk to me about what your expectations are. I know this is a big question. What are your expectations for the North Suburban markets in 2024?
I think it's going to be great. And I'll tell you why. It's going to be great for sellers. Buyers, they're going to continue to be frustrated by what's going on. We don't have a lot of inventory. Homes are being sold well before they hit the market, even before they even hit the private listing network. So for sellers, they're going to still be getting top dollar, looking at probably home appreciation of at least anywhere from 1% to 3%, depending on which location within each suburb and the type of product that it is.
Okay, so you touched on a lot of really big, great topics in there. Let's unpack some of those. First and foremost, how competitive do we think the spring market is going to be?
Very competitive.
Very competitive.
There's just no homes out there to sell. People are sitting with their golden handcuffs at home. They don't want to sell their homes. And the ones that do want to sell because of a life change, whatever that may be, are coming on the market. And there's a lot of buyers for them. But this time around, the buyers are a little bit different. They're not as crazy as they were a few years ago when COVID hit and they were putting obnoxious over-the-top offers. They've scaled that back, but it's still, they're coming in with multiple offers and homes are still selling for significantly more than they would have, say, in 2016 or 2017.
It sounds like to me from what you're saying, the desperation aspect is gone. Maybe not so desperate, but still you got to be ready to play ball when we play.
Absolutely. You must be prepared. You have to have that pre-approval letter. You have to listen to your real estate broker on how to position the best possible offer.
No, and that's fantastic. And you used a term. I called you out on it last time. I'm going to call you out on it again because this is not that type of show. But what is a golden handcuff?
Well, I thought it was that type of show.
That's the next season.
Oh, I see. Got it.
Wait for the trailer.
I can't wait. Okay, so the golden handcuffs are when 85% of the American population out there that has a mortgage are sitting on mortgages that are between anywhere from 2% to 4%. And they don't want to move because interest rates currently are about 6.75 to 7%. They're hovering, they're going back and forth with that. So they don't want to move. They want to move, but they don't want to lose this awesome interest rate that they have, thus the golden handcuffs.
So with all of the predictions and projections that we're expecting our rates to go down this year, how do you think that's really going to impact things?
I think it's going to get a lot of people to unshackle those golden handcuffs and make those moves that they need to make because of their own personal situation. There are going to be more homes that are going to hit the market and more buyers out there too, competing for those homes.
So I think you made a great point there that a lot of people would probably miss. I think we all agree we are expecting a little bit more inventory. Right?
Yes. Yeah. Especially in the first and second quarter of this year.
Yep.
But we most likely will drop by third into fourth quarter. But so will the interest rates.
So we'll get a little bit more in inventory, which really feels like winning. Mm-hmm. But along with that inventory is going to come more demand because you have these people, A, that are releasing some of the inventory.
Exactly.
And B, the other people that have been waiting and waiting and waiting for those interest rates to go down.
That's correct.
Yeah. So you mentioned there, and I think that I'm going to lead into this next part of it, a little hefty up front, and then we're going to see the market teeter off a little bit. Does that expectation tie in at all with the election? Or if not, how do you think the election is going to really hit the market?
So In my experience, in any given year for election years, the election year themselves, and when you've got, you don't know who's going to be running. So there's all the, the different campaigns going on. So that brings a lot of uncertainty. With the uncertainty, some people are not going to be making a move this year, or maybe they're not going to be as optimistic about that move this year as they are going to be optimistic regardless of who they supported. They'll be more optimistic next year because they will know what to expect. Yeah. Right? Every candidate out there will have a different policy. Those policies might affect an individual in a different way. And ultimately, it affects a homeowner. That'll affect the interest rates, their job, taxation, et cetera.
So it's interesting. I'm going to ask you a question, and then I'll give you my insight as well. But I'm going to ask you a question that I feel like I get asked all the time. And in my opinion, it's this question that has a bigger impact on the market than the actual election. I'd say the last 2 to 3 months before the election, the number one question I will get is, how will whichever winner impact the real estate market? Is that something that you guys get as well?
We do. And the short answer to that is it doesn't. There is no impact. The only impact is what's happening in your local market economy. Yep. What is this level of supply and demand, and where are the interest rates? That's what the impact is. Whenever the election finishes and, the president gets elected, there's a sense of optimism, regardless of who wins and what side you're on, because the elections are so volatile. Everyone's glad that they're over.
Relief.
There's relief. They know what to expect. And we go back into the business of doing what we're doing for the next 3 years till the same cycle happens again in the 4th year.
I agree with you 1,000%. In fact, when people ask me that question, I say nobody ever likes the answer. Yeah. There is absolutely no impact on our real estate market immediately based on the results. The impact is those 2 to 3 months up front when everyone is hesitant to do something because they're so worried that there's going to be an impact.
So what I think will affect the real estate market for the luxury home buyer, it's the effect of the stock market after an election. And there's always like an upswing or a downswing, depending on what Wall Street feels about the new candidate and its economic policies. And that is going to have an effect on the luxury market. It doesn't really impact the entry-level market. And at the end of the day, we're talking about these national numbers, but you really have to look at the local real estate market. That is what's more important.
No, that's a great point. And in fact, we were actually just talking about all of this politics, which we talk about it, but we don't talk about it. We were talking back about the 2016 election, which after the election, which was a big surprise, we saw the stock market really got rocked. And then we had a little bit of what I call holding breath as we saw how the dust settled. But for the most part, I think we're very aligned that the impact of the election on the market will be more leading up to it. The more contentious it is, the tougher it'll be. But then as we get past it, that relief, thank God, and we'll move on and we'll chug along with our normal markets. Okay, we touched on it a little bit before, but I want to come back to this because I really, truly believe that this is going to be a bit of a definition of our year. How do you see those interest rates in 2024 impacting the market on your end?
We have had a shortage of inventory in the North Shore for quite a long time. It started in 2017, pre-pandemic, and it got exponentially worse during the pandemic. And now it's still pretty bad because of the golden handcuffs, right? And everyone's sitting on very low mortgages and they don't want to sell. So with the interest rates going down, and they will go down, I don't expect them to go down to 4s or even into the 5s. I think we might hit something like 6.25% at some point this year. I'm fairly confident of that. And I think they've tackled inflation. I think that's going well. I think like the big hairball out there is what's happening in the global arena with the various wars. And I think that has contributed to some of the uncertainty to the consumer. It's given them some anxiety. But I think that'll resolve itself as they always do, hopefully sooner rather than later. And we'll see in people focusing more on themselves and taking to the next step of where they want to move.
No, I think that's, a great point, and one that we obviously have to acknowledge. The world is heavy, right? There is a lot going on out there. 2024 is going to carry a lot of that burden and a lot of that weight that we've been bringing forth from these previous years as we kind of get sucker punched as we move forward. So yes, I think there's a lot of optimism in what we're stepping into, but we can't forget about kind of what we're putting on our backs and carrying through it.
Absolutely. I mean, what we have to take a look at is when we're just looking at the U.S. and U.S. economic arena here, we've got low unemployment. Interest rates are still historically low in the last 50 years. The average in the last 50 years is 7.75%, and we're still below those averages. There are more I think the numbers are, correct me if I'm wrong, it's over 30% of the American population that own their homes outright, cash. So financially, Americans are in a pretty good spot. It's just what's happening outside of America, which is causing some uncertainty in how what's happening there is going to affect our policies.
So true.